Hi guys, welcome back to MassiveSynth.com tutorials. We're kickstarting a new feature this month and we're going to be doing Psy Trance sounds with Native Instruments Massive. Starting with this part 1 in this series, we're going to be doing a sequence bass sound that I played for you there. Plenty of movement. I'm just holding down one key. We've got all the programming going on with inside Massive using performers and LFOs to just give plenty of movement and variation with that sound. So let's start off by creating a new sound in Massive. Go straight to the oscillator section. For oscillator 1 we're going to have a drive waveform, drive 1. I'm going to take the pitch of this down by 2 octaves and keep everything else the same. We're going to be using two filters for this sound, so keep this router halfway like that. Turn on oscillator 2. This is going to be a multiplex waveform. I'm going to bring the pitch down by 2 octaves again. I'm going to change it to bend plus here, however. It just gives us quite a thicker, sort of fatter tone. And the wavetable position, bring round to around 2/3 of the way round. And its intensity, bring this down to a similar kind of value really, about 2/3 of the way up. Amp can stay on full and we can route this to both filters again. And for oscillator 3, turn that on and take the pitch down by 2 octaves and just make this a square wave and bring the intensity down a little bit. When I was putting this sound together I thought there was a bit too much kind of fizz on the top end, so just for this oscillator 3 I just brought this intensity down a bit. Okay, so next up we can move over to the oscillator section. We can just pull this glide time down. Move over to the voicing section next, make the synth monophonic. And now let's move over to the filter section and set up some of these filters. So for filter 1 we're going to use a scream filter. And keep the scream and resonance dials halfway and pull the cutoff down to 0. We're going to modulate this cutoff frequency with an LFO. And for filter 2 going to have a bandpass filter. Pull the cutoff up to around there, so it's about just a bit past halfway, and pull the bandwidth down to around about 1/3 of the way up. Resonance can stay halfway. We want to get some of that sort of quick sort of movement on that cutoff frequency there. Like that, and also with this top filter we want to get some of that going on. We're going to use LFOs in quite a quick ratio really to just get plenty of movement with this sound. So we can go over to this first LFO slot here and change this into a performer and drag the crosshair of this performer to the cutoff frequency of filter 1 and drag the modulation amount up to full. So, and let's sync this performer. Keep the ratio 1/16 and let's take the steps down to 4. Do the same at the bottom here. And what I want to do is dial in 2 different patterns, one for the top, one for the bottom. So hit the load curve button and program in this top pattern first. So we listen to that. We've got quite a cool little sequence going on now. Let's move over to the bottom part of this X-fade sequence and program this pattern. So we'll listen to that. So now I've got 2 slightly different patterns going on. Let's start modulating this cutoff frequency of the bandpass filter with this performer. So click and drag the crosshair over to the first modulation slot on the cutoff frequency of filter 2. Click and drag down this time, so now we've got some quite interesting patterns going on there as well. So let's move this mix slider of the two filters up to the top now, and pull this X-fade sequence up to the top now too. So that's the sound we should have now. And now let's move over to this second LFO slot. And we want to use a square wave for this LFO and pull the X-fade curve all the way to the top, sync it, and put the ratio as 1/2. Because what I want to do is use this LFO to just, rather than have a gradual slide in between values, just a complete sort of switch, so we can just go, it's equivalent of us going something like that. So I'm going to click and drag the crosshair of this LFO to this modulation slot on the mix slider, so now it's going to be modulating the mix between the two filters. It's quickly jumping in between the top filter and the bottom filter, which is pretty cool. And what we could do here to further this effect and have more control over this effect is to use the sidechain feature on here. Let's clear this vibrato in here, clear macro 1, click and drag the crosshair of macro 1 to the sidechain slot here, the second modulation slot on this mix slider for the filters. Check the SC button so the sidechain is now activated, click the line underneath the first modulation slot so we get this up arrow. So now this is a volume control for this modulation amount, so it's completely ineffective now. Now it's on full, so you can pull this down to about halfway. It's quite cool, and then we've got the option to go which would be quite a cool thing to automate if you were using this sound in one of your productions. So we can name this macro here, actually call it filter switch. And so the next thing we could do here is just move over to this amp envelope, just pull the attack up so we've got a nice sharp attack. And then we can finish this sound off by using some effects here. So we start off with a classic tube, push this drive up a little bit, and maybe pull the dry wet down slightly. And then we can dial in dimension expander in the second effect slot, and maybe just take some of these controls down, just tame that effect a little bit. Pull this dry wet down to around quarter of the way up. The size can go somewhere around the same really. So there we have our sound come together, a sequence based sound that's pretty cool if you're just holding down one note. And I've also actually just on this example here, I've just got this sidechain compressor going on that's just helping pump the sound a bit. But essentially nothing else going on, everything else is programming with inside Massive. So I hope you enjoyed that tutorial, I hope you found it useful. Any questions then please get in touch, and hope to see you again soon. Cheers, bye.